is retained by over 200 gas and electric utilities and over 100 industrial and commercial firms across the United States. His utility clients include virtually every major investor-owned utility: Edison Electric Institute, the Electric Power Institute, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, some of you may have heard of that, and the American Public Power Association. Mr. Gilbert's technical background includes designing power generating systems for nuclear submarines, advanced power plant and heat recovery designs at Mechanical Technology Incorporated, directing the management consulting services for the Hospital Association of New York State, and managing the worldwide energy consulting services for Dames & Moore in Washington, D.C. Mr. Gilbert formed his own firm, Gilbert & Associates, over 25 years ago, and then formed Apergy Interactive to develop the interactive multimedia and training systems 15 years ago. He developed the concept of the Peak Load Management Alliance with Elliott Boardman in 1999, anticipating the need to focus on demand response, and was recently voted to be its chairman. Mr. Gilbert received a bachelor's and master's in chemical engineering and a master's in management from
Rensselaer
Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. He is also a licensed professional engineer in New York State. He's a special friend of cooperatives from all across the country. He helped NRECA develop their key accounts program, brought the deregulation simulation to many cooperative managers at workshops all across the country, and has been a key researcher for the Cooperative Research Network at NRECA on the subjects of distributed generation. Perhaps the most important thing you should know is that Joel is a person who will tell you like it is, with a bit of biting sarcasm and humor that can at times make us uncomfortable. That is until you realize that he is a friend who is only trying to help. We have invited him here to offer us his view of where the industry is going. So please help me welcome Joel Gilbert.
And thank you very much. And thank you all for being clients of ours. We do appreciate your loyalty. When Catherine and I talked about me coming here, she had an agenda, and I asked her whether I could broaden it. And so I decided to pick one based upon what I'm watching in my own family with a 14-year-old boy who's become addicted to video games. And then watching, as our company has many youth, very young people, because we're in the web business, and watching how they spend their time. And there's been a shift, a tectonic shift in how people spend their time and what they spend their time doing. And therefore, I'm going to talk a lot about where I think we need to move to capture this interest in options. So the question is, if we were a cable channel on today's cable TV, would anybody watch it? And that's basically the challenge with something like 1,000 channels that you can get on today's cable. Wouldn't anybody watch it? So I'm going to talk about competing for mind share. Now, one of the questions that we won't spend a lot of time with it, but this slide presentation, of course, will be available to you from Catherine and Aaron and others. This is a question you might want to ask your own members at board meetings, at director meetings, and not only what you think in this room, which I'll ask you now, but what your directors think. How many of you think a phone is for talking anymore? How many of you think that you use your phone for talking? I only had one hand. Okay. You know, nobody talks on the phone anymore. The phone is a personal data machine. It is not a phone anymore. Now, I'm not going to ask you to blurt this out because some of you might say the wrong thing. Do you know what POS stands for? And I'm going to give you two choices. How many of you think the first word is peace? Okay. How many of you think the first word is parents? All right. So we got a couple of people who know that that's parents over shoulder, which means that I'm not going to text you anymore because there's somebody watching what I'm doing. Most of your children can text without you knowing it. They can do it under the table without ever looking at the phone. Most of you don't text, and I understand that because most of you are a little bit like me. You basically want to see what you're writing before you want to write it. But for those of you who have children and they are texting each other, you might watch them sometime. They don't have to look at the phone. They don't have to look at the phone. So how many of you have a personal Facebook page? Okay, well, that's good. How many of your directors do? Not so many, I'm sure. The point here is, right now, we need to get into this channel of communication. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on with this channel and the other major channels. But the idea of tweeting, to most of us, you know, that just doesn't make any sense. It just does not make any sense because we're not tweeters in general. When I get on a Facebook page, and yes, I have one, and yes, it's boring. But I get on my Facebook page, and I've set my home page to Facebook, and I'd like you to do the same, not because you're going to be impressed. In fact, you're going to be unimpressed. But it'll begin to pervade your mind to see where minds are on Facebook. We are not thinking the way these customers are thinking. So the last question is, do any of you even know what a hashtag is? How many know what a hashtag is? Okay. That is because tweeting is so popular, people want to filter tweets and only get tweets about a specific subject. That's a question you can put in the command line that will actually only filter your tweets that you see based upon a subject you're interested in, like energy efficiency. It's interesting, if you set it to energy efficiency, there are no tweets. You set it to Lady Gaga and you get something quite different. So I'm going to play this for you, and it's about 3 minutes long, and I know I'm using a lot of my time, but I want you to begin to just take in what's happening around us. How many of you saw the movie Social Network? Did any of you see the Social Network? Yeah. You need to see that movie. You need to understand what's happening around you. This is a snapshot of that, and I'm going to try to run it here. Hopefully it'll run accurately. I turned the volume down so it wouldn't blast you. That's an important statistic. Oh, come on. Catch up with the wireless, please. Got a little wireless. For the purpose of time, I'm not going to show you the whole one. If Facebook was a country, it would be bigger than the United States. I don't know if that means anything to you. 80% of Koreans are addicted to video games. Something is happening. All across the country, something is happening. I'm going to suggest a book. It has been basically required reading in our company, but if you want to begin to understand what's at work here, there is a book. It's a Harvard Business School book. That should tell you at what level I'm speaking. It's called Total Engagement. It is not light reading. It will take you into the structured reasons why there is a social change in society and what is going on in the minds of these users. We have a couch potato, social inept view of these people that would say that they're just disconnected from reality and sitting in the couch because they are socially just not, they're cooler online. We are not hitting this accurately. And this book begins to talk about that. The problem with our approach is I'm an engineer. How many of you are engineers? Don't be embarrassed. Okay. We are engineers. Many of us in this business are engineers, accountants, lawyers, and whatever. And we tend to focus on facts. And the industry has been focused a lot on its market message about how electricity is better than gas or better than propane. What we need to do is to stop thinking that way. Number one, that alienates the average user. Number two, it's not just good marketing. Phrases like go gas, go boom are just not appropriate. Now, I know you wouldn't do that. In Texas, they said if you wouldn't like it in your stomach, you shouldn't have it in your home. But there are phrases that we tend to use that show we are biased. There was a statistic in that video that shows how that bias is showing through and disconnecting Americans all across the country. As soon as they smell that you have a party line, they tune you out. They want to see you more interested in their success than yours. Therefore, gas is not the enemy of electricity, it's a choice. Customers can freely choose it if they can. It is no longer a combative marketing issue. Now, this is interesting because the problem with us is we are fact-based, and in some cases the facts are on our side. Now, you know, I'm tired of male engineers that I meet bragging about knowing 50 ways to make love to a woman, but they don't know any women. The issue here is relational. It's not how much you know. Most male engineers use their personality as their method for birth control. So the problem here is relational, and we are increasingly not relationally sensitive, especially as this group of customers is emerging. I'd like to tell you also we're temporarily focused on accuracy, and accuracy doesn't necessarily market an idea very well. Death insurance is what life insurance was originally called. They couldn't sell it. It is what it is. You and I have life insurance, but it's not. It's death insurance. But they couldn't sell it because they refused to call it what people wanted to buy. So they changed the name of death insurance to life insurance because people felt better about insuring their death. We have names and terms and conditions and everything we do which are focused on negatives. And one of the pieces of research I did to get our company focused on the future is I listened to 18 hours of neurobiology of the brain, trying to understand why we're worried, why are we wired up this way? What is going on in this autonomic reaction we have to certain ideas? One of the most chilling statistics in this 18 hours of a neuroscience that I had to listen to is our wired up attitude when we intrinsically hear something negative. We dismiss it. Negative messages don't motivate. That's a fascinating piece of neurological research. If somebody feels positive about something and the message reinforces the positive, the dopamine cycle in your brain creates pleasure. If, on the other hand, we hear something we feel negative about, it may make us angry, but it will never promote action. And what we need to do is promote action. So there's a lot of things going on. Another thing we're focused on terribly today is the PC assuming somebody's going to sit at their desk. Within 10 years, that paradigm will be completely meaningless. Everything will be mobile. So you better start thinking, what is your mobile way of communicating to customers? Small platform, mobile. That's basically where we're going.